What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in today's video, we will be covering the final issue of Robin with a review of Robin, issue number 17. Now, obviously, after this, the story is still going to continue in the upcoming Batman vs. Robin mini-series by Mark Waid, but this marks the end of the Damian Wayne solo Robin book. I don't know what's going to happen after Batman vs. Robin. Maybe they'll relaunch this book with something else, or that's just going to be it. I don't know what's going on, really, with DC Comics anymore. But this is where we're at. We're at the end of a journey, and it is a bittersweet ending. I really liked what Joshua Williamson did with this book. It was a joy to read each and every month. Yes, some issues were not as stellar as others. There was some fantastic stuff done in a lot of the issues of this book. I love the first arc was just basically like a shonen anime manga inspired tournament fighter. I really loved that aspect to it, and there was some good characterization at times. Some things were a little bit rushed, and even with this final issue, you can tell that they kind of had to wrap it up rather quickly. I don't know if that was because Williamson knew he had to leave the book with this issue, and they had to set up what Mark Waid was doing, but some of it did feel a little bit rushed, but it did have its nice, heartwarming moments, too, and it was at least a fun book to read. So let's go ahead and quickly summarize things, and I'll give my final thoughts on it. For my final Robin issue, and oh man, it just sucks to say that out loud, final issue Robin. So obviously this issue opens up with a little bit of kind of a sort of recap about Damian and all kind of the tragic stuff that happens. It's him, Connor, and Flatline. You know, in the last issue, Lord Deathman was revealed to be basically hooking up with Ra's al Ghul, Damian's great-grandmother, for reasons, I guess, to get Lazarus resin and all sorts of whatever the issue may be. They're heading back to Lazarus Island to kind of take care of him. You can see that they have their own little Lord Deathman cruise and all these jet skis and stuff. So I thought that was kind of fun. Ra's al Ghul's there too. Look at that. Lord Deathman's like, hey, babe, I got the heart that you needed to set up this thing for Neza, and please give me Lazarus resin so I can become upgraded and all that. So yeah, Lord Deathman hooking up with Ra's al Ghul is really like weird, but also kind of funny. And for whatever reason, they need this heart for the devil Neza, who, as you know, was in the World's Finest book. So if you want to know more about that, you can check out my videos on World's Finest. But Neza is going to be the main villain in the upcoming Batman vs. Robin book. And it's clear that Damian is going to get possessed by this devil-like creature. So all the happy stuff in here, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's going to be a tough couple of months for the characters coming up in a second. So Mother Soul uses her magic on him, and he kind of changes a bit. We see Damian working with Ra's al Ghul, which I'm so thankful for. Thank you, Joshua Williamson, for doing this, because it's nice to have him work with other members of his family and to see him and Mara finally on good terms after all these years later, because we went so long without like ever figuring out what happened to her, and then she just kind of popped up and you had those little moments in there, so that's good. He also works with one of the members of Batman Incorporated. Lord Deathman comes in all jacked up and juiced, ready to go, and he's kicking ass, and Damian kind of gets into a fight with him. He lets him know about the situation, like, see, she was on my side the whole time. She never cared about you. She manipulated you and all that stuff. She kind of makes peace with what she did. She's like, okay, so he's telling the truth. I did use you at first, but I totally stabbed him in the back the first chance I got. Now, this whole revelation about Flatline, that is wrapped up rather quickly. There's really not much in terms of lasting consequences. Damian's just kind of quick to be like, okay, no big deal. I'm just going to rip your heart out, which doesn't that go against the whole no-killing thing? But then again, I guess his loophole is Lord Deathman's immortal, and he's just going to come back. So this is just a kind of a way to subdue him. And in that regards, he's not permanently killing somebody. He's just kind of ending them temporarily for a few minutes while he kind of comes back to life. So in that sense, there's a difference between dead and like mostly dead, I think was the saying in the movie Princess Bride. But regardless, Lord Deathman is taken out rather easily, and he's just going to spend a little bit of time to recover. So there's that. Elsewhere, Damian is kind of hearing his voice being spoken to him from this cave, which is going to be where Neza is going to be, I'm certain. And you can see the kind of like creepy horror atmosphere of it all, and you can see his name being called to him, and he's haunted by it. So something about him and his heart is going to play a factor into the whole Devil Neza thing. So afterwards, Flatline's like, hey, you know what? Let's go have a fun beach day. So, because we've been kind of miserable for a long time. So we get a bunch of panels of them all partying, having a good time. And it is nice to see, because these characters never really get to seem to have fun. You can see him, you can see Mara, you can see, what was it, XXL, and Black Swan, 2 characters who they introduced who they did pretty much nothing with, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. Granted, they're just kind of there to fill out the roster, but it would have been nice to have gotten just a little bit more. We had like 1 page in the annual on both characters and not much else from there. So yes, you can see them all having a good time. They throw back to the manga, which I guess it's like the final issue. They kind of talk about things and the whole situation. Now, Damian was calling her his girlfriend, and she's like, you know, can you just not call me that? It's a little bit fast in that, and he kind of agrees to the whole situation. He's like, sorry, I'm kind of new to this whole thing. So I kind of like that because he is really new to this thing and he really doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's kind of a funny bit too. She's like, so why don't you just ask me out in that? She asked him to kind of come with them. And he's like, maybe some other time. I got to take care of some stuff here on the island. So this is kind of another goodbye until we meet again sort of moment with the 2 of them. So who knows what's going to happen next with that, if Mark Waid's going to bring her back for the story. But as it stands right now, Damian's going to do a little bit of investigating on Lazarus Island. Connor Hawke is going off to do his own thing, and they're friends. And he's like, it was nice hanging out with you. And Connor's like, I'm going to go ahead and see my dad. So there you go. Damian's still kind of left ambiguous about who he is by the end of this issue. We get this nice little page right here, and he's still trying to figure out who he is. So it's not totally clear-cut as to what Damian's going to be next, but I think that's what the upcoming miniseries is going to be, to really kind of define the character, because they've really set this thing up a long time ago about the whole heart thing being taken, because that's going to be utilized for the Devil Nazah thing. So that was planned from the get-go. So I don't know how long they've been planning this whole Batman vs. Robin thing and what it was eventually going to lead to with Mark Waid coming in to write that storyline. I'm curious to know why he's writing that particular storyline with Damian, so that should be interesting. I don't think he's ever really written the character before. So yeah, he's still trying to figure things out. He's in a good place by the end of this series. And of course, we get the little epilogue with him touring things Lazarus Island, and this was also showcased in World's Finest, and it says to be continued in Batman vs. Robin. So dark days are ahead for the titular character. So that was it. That was the final issue of Robin in a nutshell. You know, I have a soft spot for the series, obviously. It brought Damian back from a really bad place from where his character was at before in the Teen Titans book when it was Glass and Thompson. That was such a low point for the character that it really needed to kind of be cleaned up. And I think Williamson overall did a pretty good job in doing so. Some aspects to his run were a little bit rushed. Sometimes it took its time, which was nice. And then other aspects, I think there were some good moments with his whole relationship thing with Flatline, but in other aspects, I think it was rushed a little bit at times. They could have taken their time just a little bit longer, and they wanted to kind of get those moments out there. And even issues like this particular one, the whole Lord Deathman thing after Mother Soul and all that got wrapped up rather quickly, and I feel like they could have done a little bit more with that. And the whole, he kind of like kills him, but he doesn't really, because it has the whole immortal thing. I don't know, it kind of goes against in some ways what happened with Shadow War, but since he is immortal, he can't really die. It's just kind of a temporary setback. So does that really count? No, he kind of thought of that aspect, so he didn't really permanently take care of him because he knows he's just going to recover just fine. So in that aspect, he's not really going against the whole heroic thing. He's like, okay, I just this is going to hurt, and it's going to level the playing field. It's going to take you out, but it's not going to fully just permanently end you. So that was a bit rushed, and I was kind of disappointed in that being wrapped up so quickly, because it felt like with the last issue, cliffhanger is like, oh, what are we going to do with Lord Deathman? Oh, he's just going to be kind of taken out rather easily. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing that it was a little bit short, but at the same time, it was nice for the characters to kind of have just their fun little moments together, because this is probably the last time they're really going to ever experience joy for quite a long time. And this is the first time he's kind of having fun with other people and just having a good time. It's just something that he's not really accustomed to doing so much. Not really since the days of Super Sons. You don't really get to see them all just hang out and have fun. So I liked it. This final page right here is a beautiful final send-off for the series. It could have been a little bit stronger. Some aspects, like I said, were a little bit rushed, but I think that's because Williamson had to leave the book. I would have liked for him to have done more stuff. I think he originally had plans to bring in Maya Ducard at some point. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention before we get to the end of this particular story. Respawn is back. So yeah, it's kind of like a hidden panel. I kind of just brushed over it. But yeah, Respawn seemingly is alive right there. without really any explanation as to why. So I'm not sure how he's been brought back. Maybe that's Mother Soul and all that stuff right there, because if I recall in the upcoming preview for Batman vs. Robin, Alfred is seemingly back from the dead. I don't know if it's him or some sort of imposter, but there's a lot of mystery and intrigue going into the upcoming Batman vs. Robin event, which is going to be a 5-issue, like 50-page comic or 50-page comic book series. So like each issue is going to be close to like 50 pages, and it's going to be 5. But I really liked what Mark Waid was doing with World's Finest, and I'm hoping that he's able to deliver a really satisfying issues or a mini series with Batman vs. Robin. Yeah, it's still the whole Damian versus Bruce thing, but it's clearly not his fault this time. He's going to get possessed by a demon of sorts. And yeah, I'm a little tired of seeing the two fight constantly, time and time again. But I think it's all going to be okay kind of in the end to see how things turn out. So yeah, this is it. This is a very bittersweet video for me to have to make, because I've really loved the Robin book in general. It's been fun to read each month. It's been fun to read all the comments and everybody just kind of talking about a series that they've, for the most part, enjoyed and had some fun with. I'm really going to miss it, and I mean that sincerely. This was a really good book. It was my favorite ongoing at DC for the longest time. And now it's coming to an end, and there's a lot of uncertainty going on in terms of Damian's character in the future. Williamson earned, I think, the trust of a lot of people because of how he kind of pushed things forward. Hopefully, we don't get the same situation where every time a new writer comes in, they immediately regress the character. And in some ways, it kind of feels like that with Batman vs. Robin immediately following this, but it's clear that it's going to be possession, so it's not going to be his fault. But when it's done, I don't want it to be kind of ignored, and I'm just kind of tired of that happening like every single time with this character. No more of that. Let the character grow. Let that growth stay. No reason to regress. Character regression oftentimes is like the worst thing to happen with the character, especially when you've done it so many times with his character. And I'm fearful that other writers will ignore what Williamson did in this run just to kind of push the regression angle. We should be past that by this point. That's the entire reason we had this solo book, was to kind of fix things up a little bit. And he's in a good place going into Batman vs. Robin. And it's clear, like I said, demonic possession. If you read World's Finest, you know what Nezza's capable of. So it's not going to be himself at fault. He's going to be possessed by a demon. But we'll see how that all turns out. So I don't know. I'm excited for the Batman vs. Robin book. Yes, I'm a little tired of Bruce versus Damian. I feel like we've done this so many times already. But in this instance, it's not going to be him who's responsible for it. It's going to be a demon literally possessing him. So there's that. So hopefully that miniseries is good. I have faith it will be, given Mark Waid's writing in World's Finest has been excellent. So yeah, I don't know what else to really say. If you read this issue of Robin, tell me your thoughts on it. What was your favorite issue in the entire series? What did you think of the series as a whole? What would you like to see with the character going forward? And I'm getting a little choked up here because this is the end. This is literally it. This is the final issue. So thank you, Joshua Williamson, for writing a really good book. I'm going to miss it. Hopefully one day he'll be writing maybe a continuation of this series at some point, or somebody who likes the character to do something good with him instead of just some other writer coming in and just throwing that all away, or DC editorial just throwing that all away. So he's kind of in an interesting place right now, because I think a lot of Damian fans, such as myself, are always kind of cautious, given the fact that the character has been in instances where he was left off in a good place, and then another writer comes in and just kind of throws that all away. So hopefully Mark Waid doesn't do that, and I have a feeling he's not going to. But we'll see. I mean, everything's all up in the air at this point. So yeah, all right. Well, that's all I got to say. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications. Be sure to come back. Maybe later on today, I'll be getting out some more comic book reviews. As of right now, I think I got a couple more for this week, but I haven't gotten around to reading them. I just want to get this Robin one out right away. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you all so much for watching this video and supporting the channel all this time and following me along since we started covering Robin last year. I'm really going to miss it, and I'm going to really miss seeing comments on the Robin reviews. So that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.